With me is Egypt's Investment and Foreign Trade Minister. So, welcome to WION. It's great to have you here in Delhi and have a conversation on this relationship. My first question to you is: how do you see the investment potential between the two countries, the trading relationship? If you can give a broader overview of this relationship.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you here in the New Delhi in India. The relationship between the two countries is really centuries long, and great respect for two of the oldest civilizations in the world. The trade as it stands today is around $4 to $5 billion, and what we see today is that this is something that we can really expand. And I discussed with my counterpart, the Minister of Foreign Trade in India, is that we need to set up a target, and I think we've set up a target of $12 billion in a couple of years. What we need to do is to put the business community from both sides together and to expand to see where we can expand the trade and investments. The investments currently stands at $3.7 billion Indian investments in Egypt, and there is also several investments from from Egyptian companies here in India. Both countries open a major opportunity for any company that operates. For Egyptian companies to set up in India, which is I'm encouraging, it opens the Asian market. India is very competitive. It has a lot of sectors that can offer major cutting-edge technology, and major sectors that you have major advantages and major market as well. Same for Egypt, centered in three continents, very competitive landscape, be it on labor, engineering, talent, and location that is unique, can open markets for anything that is exportable across three continents. So the huge potential, and we've discussed this, and now it's all about taking this to the next level and making sure that these targets are met within the time frame that we've set.
So, what are the incentives you're giving to Indian investors to come to Egypt? And also, we know that the Suez Canal economic zone. What are the incentive for the Indian businesses to go there, set up manufacturing units, or be involved in renewable sectors?
We have an investment law that is quite unique. We've put in there incentives that link to the capital that is put, the location of the plant, because we wanted to put businesses and industries in certain locations to develop the areas around it. You mentioned the SC zone, for example. And the system is very simple. It's about capital rebate. So you get 30%, 50%, in some cases even higher, depending on the industry, depending on the investment size and the location of that. And it's a very straightforward. We have schemes to help exporters. And again, depending on the sector as well, so it's sort of an export promotional program that we have set forward. But again, what matters in the case of Egypt is that the environment and the cost advantages and the competitive landscape makes it very beneficial for companies to set up businesses in Egypt. And again, location, cost advantages, markets that are open through free trade agreements. We have a free trade agreement with the EU that has been enacted for several years, and we have the couple of free trade agreements in Africa. We have the COMESA, which opens 22 markets in the eastern and southern part of Africa, as well as the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, the Arab Free Trade Agreement. So any company that's set up in Egypt can benefit out of 70 markets, which is very, very important.
Both countries also elevated their relationship to a strategic partnership with the recent high-level visits. So, if you can perhaps talk about how the strategic partnership has helped the relationship between the two countries, and also you talked about free trade agreement. Any kind of conversation with the Indian side also on any trading pacts, any plans like that?
I think to discuss the Indian part, we have not discussed. I think it's something that we will consider in its due course. As I said, where we are today, it's still early in our trade relationship, but I think it's something that we will definitely consider. Again, as we grow the trade first and then we see the potential between the two countries, I think we can definitely discuss the free trade agreement. The strategic level, we have enacted with some countries as well, and it depends on the trade relationship that we've had with our trading partners. But it's, again, when you take that strategic level, it's about lifting and again taking the trade and investment to a different level, and we've been selective in taking this. But as I said, trade is very important for Egypt, and opening trade is very important. Trade competitiveness at the heart of what we want to put forward for investors. Again, we see Egypt as very competitive. currently, and what is needed is to create the ecosystem, the environment that makes it very easy for anyone to set up, ease of imports, ease of export, reducing the cost of the whole process. So at the heart of this is competitive nature, and we want to be top 50 in trade competitiveness. We want to be reduce the cost massively to make it as easy as possible for businesses to set up their business to be as hub for exports based on Egypt.
So I'd like to know Egypt's view about the disruptions which have happened in past few years, whether it's the Suez Canal disruption or whether it is in the Gulf of Aden, where we have seen attacks by the Houthis, which has disrupted the maritime trade between Europe and India. So what's your view on that? And also, we know that there is a big conversation here in India about the India Arab, that is Middle East and Europe corridor. What's the Egyptian view about this corridor that is being built as something that can help in prosperity in the wider region?
So these are two questions. The disruptions is not only the Houthis. I think since COVID, we've been living in a very troubled world, as you can see, COVID, and then Russian war in Ukraine, and then the Gaza situation, which again led the Houthis expand their strides against ships in the Red Sea. Egypt is one of the countries that unfortunately suffered the most from all of these. The Russian war in Ukraine, we're one of the largest importers of wheat and corn, and our main sources were actually Ukraine and Russia. So that's also something that affected our fiscal space. The reduction in the Suez Canal proceeds, which is estimated to be 60 to 70%, is also something that puts pressure on our fiscal side of that. What we've started to do is simply is that we wanted to diversify our sources of buying our major commodities, and actually we started importing from India to that effect. Second is again on the fiscal side and the monetary side. The monetary side of things is that we liberalized the monetary side of the policy last year, in March last year. And since then, we've managed to recover a lot of the remittances, or the majority of the remittances from the Egyptians working abroad. So that created the balance that we needed in the FX inflows to the country. In FDI has increased as well, because we started to talk about transparent policies to that effect. So for us, just to be as clear, we as a government, we want to create the right policies for things to normalize in a very challenging world, as you highlighted. To your second question, and the corridors, the trade corridors in the world, Egypt has been always the trade corridor, and Suez Canal has been historically that one. And I think it's by far is the most cost-effective corridor. When we listen to our partners here in India, and we listen to the challenges that led them to talk about the different corridors, and expanding corridors is something that is always understood. We understand that it's the capacity of the Suez Canal, and it's also the cost, and of course the Houthis. Egypt has actually looked at this seriously over the past several years, so we're not waiting. So we've actually put forward a parallel route on our own, an inland high-speed rail that connects from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean. That's what we mentioned to our friends in India and along the Gulf as well, the partners to the IMEE. And I think that is already an infrastructure that is unique, that can take you from Gadda ports to Egypt ports in less than a day, and then in hours to the Mediterranean. But this is, again, our intention to be part of this and to expand trade through multiple corridors. So we're maintaining the fact that our location needs to be maximized in terms of the yield on that globally. And I think our value proposition in this sense, these projects, by the way, are effective next year. So the road networks and the high-speed rail is actually starting 50% capacity next year, and it's full capacity the following year. So we're ready to be part of that corridor.
That is what I wanted to understand. Are you clearly saying that Egypt should be part of the corridor?
I think, again, the infrastructure is there. Again, replicating infrastructure is something that investors, again, it's an investment at the end of the day. I think, again, Suez Canal is not something that is replaceable because, again, the cost, the ships, the size. But again, having these multiple corridors, we're putting forward an additional option as well.
On that note, sir, thank you so much for speaking to WION. It was lovely speaking to you and getting a perspective of how Egypt is an opportunity for Indian investors. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much.
With video journalist Ajit Sidhant Sibal for WION in New Delhi.